I realized that unless you have some central bank, controlling the money and printing it and taking all that extra value for themselves, honest money is an investment. They inflate and then they take that money and they give it to governments, corporations, and those people that get it first, they get to spend it into existence. The money is the energy in the system that as it flows, it controls how the system works. In and of itself is a technology. It transmits information through the economy. If we've just been telling the centralized AIs everything about us all day, every day, that's really worrisome. I need an AI that's on my side. I need it to model me as best it can, and I need it to make sure that it lives on my servers in my home or wherever, but it's secure and I control it. The AIs, they are going to be the labor of the world. They're going to replace human labor, and their labor is going to be so much more efficient. And what kind of money are they going to use? Digital money. They're not going to use the dollar. They'll just use it when they have to interface with human stuff.
If an AI conducted an independent study of all possible currencies, up to and including nation-state paper, gold, silver, glass beads, seashells, yap stones, cryptocurrencies that are not Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, which currency do you think they would select as the most secure, the most neutral, the most reliable?
They might use Bitcoin for everything.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. I'm your host, Stuart.
And I'm your co-host, Anna Bevan.
And back for his Bitcoin baby update is number 35, Jordan. We taped your episode on March 12th. It is now October 20, which is a little under 8 months. Mm-hmm. If you had chosen the $50, which you did not, good man, but if you had chosen the $50, then your $50 would be worth $49.36, which is a 1.3% drop in purchasing power. Ew. Okay,
Gross.
Where's number 32, Lucola? Ew. You stacked instead 60,950 sats, which is insane because these days we're lucky to hand out 40 to 45,000 sats for $50.
Right.
But you must have come on the show when it was like getting down into the 80s, kind of how it was doing. And you walked away with an astounding 60,950 sats, which is now worth $67.65. That is a 35.3% increase, which is the greatest increase of anybody coming back on this show. That means there's a total 36.6% swing between the value of the dollar and the value of Bitcoin between your two guest appearances. Jordan, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel great. Yeah. Investing in the world currency. That's awesome.
Do you feel like Bitcoin is an investment, or do you feel like it's money, or do you feel like it's both?
I feel like sound, correct money, honest money is an investment. So I feel like it's both. I remember when I was just kind of trying to figure out what was going on in my early 20s, and I looked at economics and I kind of tried to work it out. I realized that if you had, I did this kind of thought experiment, and I thought, if I had an island full of people and, we have nothing, and so we start to work together and we start to build up this island, all of the money that we, whatever we use for money is going to represent our labor And, the more we have children, the more we, grow the population. And as long as we don't have a bunch of takers, but the more we have productive citizens of the island, the more valuable our money should become. So unless you have, some central bank, controlling the money and printing it and taking all that extra value for themselves, honest money is an investment. It's a representation of, the technology and the increased ability for people to do valuable work.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Central bank taking all that extra value for themselves. So, I mean, that made me feel like I kind of got this image of we should be prospering over time, but any gains that we make as citizens of this island get siphoned off into like a bank or a financial, like whatever, like, what do you mean when you say that they're taking all that extra value that we're creating but not seeing?
Well, it's the inflation. They inflate and then they take that money and they give it to cronies. They give it to, whatever, governments, corporations. And those people that get it first, get the money first, they get to spend it into existence. They get to spend it. So they get to have free money. And that's the value that they're stealing from everybody.
I liked that you said honest money. That stood out to me in your statement. Will you talk a little bit more about honest money, and then I would assume the opposite would be dishonest money, and like where that comes into your reference point?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is I started looking at the economy way back in the day, and I was like, I can't make sense of this, and I've discovered the different schools of thought around how the economy works. And the Austrian economists made the most sense to me. And so honest money is just kind of that. It's Bitcoin or it's gold or it's money that nobody can inflate away all by themselves. And dishonest money is money that can be inflated away and controlled and manipulated.
Why did you start looking at economics even to begin with? Because, for me, you're a big thinker, especially in the realm of technology. And so, number one, I wouldn't expect you to go think about the economy unless you're approaching it as a form of technology, which would be nuts. Mm-hmm. But also, it's not your everyday person who says, let me take some time out of my day to study economics. What it sounds like, simply because you couldn't make sense of it just by thinking about it. What even got you started down that road?
I was in my early 20s and I felt like I just wasn't learning what I needed to in school. And so, I was still going to college and doing the thing, but, and I took economics courses in college, but it was really just feeling like I needed to take my education into my own hands, and not just trust what other people say or try to memorize what they're telling me, but really understand. And I felt like, well, money makes the world go around. So why don't I start with money to figure out how this world works? And so that's kind of where I started with economics.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Money does seem like I don't know. It's like, is it the base layer of humanity, or is it like the fuel for living your life? It's like this, it's this substance, it's like it's this thing that we all need in order to survive, basically, mm-hmm. right? And some people might say, well, there's some Aboriginal peoples, or there are some, individuals that live deep in a jungle who have never seen another human being. And so you don't really need money. But for me, it kind of seems like you could also say, okay, well, we don't need it for survival, but you need money as a way to represent your labor, right? Like, hey, I did this work for this planet. It wasn't directly exchangeable for something at the time. So I was able to put it somewhere and until I needed it for something else, and we can all accept that this is worth something. And I spent my life thinking that was the dollar until it was no longer the dollar, right? So like I want to hear more about your journey.
Sure. I eventually I found a book that was basically a manifestation of my thought experiment. So it was written by Peter Schiff, and you can go through this book. It's called How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes, and it 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 kind of lays it out. It's great, and it's got illustrations. It's fun, and it's just kind of elementary, fun, good foundation for this school of thought where you can see money as what it really is. So to me, money is control. And so I kind of divide up the world into two basic, I don't know, structures or categories. And one is control and one is will. So there's intent and then there's actually what happens. And, with the money is the energy in the system that as it flows, it controls how the system works. And the intent of those that hold the money or control the money is the way in which it flows. But it in itself is a technology too, because it transmits information from one part of the economy to the other. So it transmits, that's price information. And so I think Thomas Sowell talked a lot about the price technology, the price mechanism, where if you don't have money, you don't have prices, everything's barter, or everything's controlled centrally, then you lose information that can flow through the system and make the system more efficient. You lose how much people value this thing over here and how much they don't value it over there, how hard it is to get. And as soon as, we found this out with all the experiments with kind of extreme command and control, like communist societies and totalitarian societies, which took control of the economy and thought that they could manage it better than everybody coordinating through the pricing mechanism. So it in and of itself is a technology, but so it kind of represents that energy flow to me. That's what it is through the economy.
It's interesting you say that because there's so many parts of my early Bitcoin journey that were huge breakthroughs for me that I no longer think about and just take for granted. And then, we don't slow down during the show, maybe for someone who doesn't have that breakthrough yet. But you're totally right. There is, it was a big deal for me to realize that we were not getting the right information in our US dollar system because there are so many subsidies from the government that distort the pricing of certain items. Plus, the currency itself is busted to where things cost more over time. So, not only is our money issuer issuing money to things to prop them up unnaturally to where we can't get a real sense of what it's worth, but also the technology they're using to send that information is also busted. So the whole thing is upside down. And when I think about an example that might be closer to my, worldview, if I put out a video with Jordan and YouTube does nothing with it, then we get to see how many people are interested in it. But if every time I put out a video on downloading a new wallet, YouTube says, we're going to subsidize every single one of those types of videos with 15,000 views, then I'm going to make those videos into infinity because they get so many views. But in reality, my channel may not grow. My number of subscribers may not grow because people are like, we don't like these videos. YouTube is just making them artificially propped up, right? So it's like you don't get the right information in order to make decisions. And this is happening on like a national and global scale where centralized organizations and governments are kind of like they're putting their finger on the scale and it makes it rise up here. And then someone else puts their finger here, maybe here. And eventually they're propping so many things up and holding so many things down. Like nobody even knows what's real anymore.
You lose market signals. Like they're not real anymore. They don't like tell you what people actually want, what people actually need, or what trends are. So like if you lose market signals, I don't know how you trust trends. Which is just crazy. It's taken us so long to get to incentives, which is a wild conversation.
Yeah. And my thought process, Jordan, is Bitcoin fixes this because it is real money and you cannot inflate it. So when you send your sats for something, you're signaling that you value it. And if the entire world, 8 billion plus people, adopt a Bitcoin standard to where that's our money, we can only send pure signal to one another and everything gets much better. But how long do you think that's going to take, Jordan?
Oh, I don't know. How long will it take? It may never happen, or it may happen in the far future. It may happen in a different way. But it could happen quickly. If things go really south and there's an impetus to, for people to take control, I'm hoping that there's a lot more people willing to, I'm hoping the barriers come down for making it easy for people to do that and also easy for people to manage their privacy, especially in this realm of AI that we're entering into, where we've just been telling the centralized AIs everything about us all day, every day for the last, couple years or whatever. That's really worrisome, like we don't have to do that. We can do better. So, but people need to make the tools to make it easy to do better. So that's what I'm hoping for. This whole ecosystem, I want it to evolve and mature.
To your point there with AI, we are sending quite a bit of information about ourselves to OpenAI's servers, and there's a whole thing there. What I've been wondering, Jordan, is should I take the next step as a Bitcoiner who is taking his own money into self-custody? Should I figure out how to download and run a local large language model to where I have a chat GPT just on my computer and it doesn't go anywhere? And it's like our private instances that are local on your computer. Is that the next wave of AI?
I hope so. And I wish I could tell you that you should do that right away, but I haven't even done that because I cannot run a model good enough to do what I need to do, right? So luckily, most of the things that I have to talk to the AIs about is like computer programming stuff. It's not really that personal, but still stuff slips through. You're always giving away information. So if I could run stuff locally, I would pay the cost if I could afford it to make that happen. So I hope we can get to that world soon.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have an artificial intelligence, which really they're not even at. I was at a conference, Jordan, where the guy said some dude, AI was huge, and everybody in cybersecurity was talking about it. And one dude in the back, out of nowhere, just was like, guys, if we had an artificial intelligence, we would know because it would tell us. And I was like, dang, hot take. So we have sufficiently advanced technology to seem artificially intelligent, right? But Arthur C. Clarke, where are you at? But we're not like at a level where an artificial intelligence is like, hello, it is me, I am here. But I would love to have a quote unquote AI on my phone that just works with me. It's nice and secure. It's private. It's walled off. Same for my computer or whatever. But you're saying that you would need some computing power in your home in order to really benefit from AI. Otherwise, we just have to send our requests off to other companies that do have that power.
Yeah. And people need to make the tools. Like I know some people that are working on projects like that right now. And they're trying to do it for security issues, like privacy issues, concerns. And one is my good friend Will Bound, who's making a project called I Am AI. And the idea behind all these projects is basically, I need an AI that's on my side. I need it to model me as best it can, and I need it to make sure that it lives on my servers in my home or wherever, but it's secure and I control it, and it needs to. That's what we need as a personal assistant. That's what we want. So we want to be able to say to it, hey, listen, you already have the context of my life. You know who I am, you know everything about me. And right now, the OpenAI and Claude, they're making models that know everything about you. So they're getting in position to be able to say, hey, look, here's your personalized AI assistant that's better than anything you could make, right? Why don't you do that instead of trying to play catch up? So it does feel like it would be nice if people could get this ball rolling. But the problem is, it's the computational cost. They can run models that are so much bigger than anything I could run locally. Like, I don't know, like 10 times or something. Like, it's a large amount. But it's getting better. It's getting better all the time, and models are getting more efficient. So the way I envision it as working, if somebody could make it work, is it seems most efficient to me to say, okay, look, I have my own model that's kind of an executive level model. Now, when I say that, I mean, they're not very smart. Okay. Executives are brilliant in some way because they see a big, broad picture. But if you ask them any detail about anybody's job, anywhere beneath them, they have no idea what you're talking about, right? Because they're executives. They're meant to be at the top and looking at 5-year time horizon. So you want an executive model that says, okay, I get the big picture of you and I understand, but I am going to delegate to smaller or to more fine-tuned models these, specific requirements that you need. So I can talk to you and I can help you plan things out and whatever, but I'm really not going to do much. I'm an executive. Okay. So I'm going to, dispense, all these requirements and tasks and plans down to smaller models or models my same size that have specialized on some aspect of your life. And they're going to give me feedback. They're going to tell me, I can't do it quite like you suggested, but I can do something like that. And I'm going to work with them to make this happen. And there's going to be external tools that, are not running locally that we will interface with. The executive level will interface with. So if we need to go ask ChatGPT some questions, or if we need to use this tool online, or, we need to control your whatever, maybe social media or something, we're going to use these tools. We're going to interface with MPC servers, and we're going to interface with APIs, and we're going to work for you, right? But you need that executive to not be in the cloud, not be controlled by a different company, to actually be yours. And that's the way I see it working. And, I hope it works that way.
That is insane.
I know. I'm trying to run through use cases for this. Like, how would I use this? I mean, I constantly say I wish I could multiply myself.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time do I say that.
Totes. I mean, I got some ideas. I mean, when you're describing an executive chappie that is going to go and interface with individual chappies to come back with a result, like, I could go to my executive chappie and say, hey, go ahead and optimize my life.
Yeah.
And then that executive chappie would go down to my physical fitness chappie who's like, okay, Monday, we're going to be picking up stones and carrying them around the house this many times. Tuesday, you want to take the dog for a walk because you're going to lift with your brother in the afternoon. Wednesday, you're going to be sore, so hit the rowing machine. Like, and then throughout the day, I can say, okay, that lift felt heavier than usual. That physical chappie's like, okay, we're going to change this instead. We're going to go light here. We're going to increase your work capacity instead of going heavy. Like, that would be nuts. And then there's like a time management chappie that's like, all right, you're going to go from here to here. You need to leave at this time. Bop, 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 dibbity bop. Okay. Ooh. Then there's going to be a chappie that's going to say, here's what your wife means when she says stuff out loud, right? And that's going to help me not get in trouble a whole bunch. And like, when Kristen's like, hey, what should we have for lunches next week? I'm like, food sucks. Why do we always got to eat it? It always comes back up. I can't solve for this. Like, doesn't somebody just have like a goo I can ingest at this point? Like, dogs just get to eat the same stuff all the time. It's so simple. How come there isn't dog food for people? That little chappie can say, hey, I know you actually do like garlic. I know you actually do like onions. Like, there is food you like. And it could just like, basically that executive chappie becomes like Iron Man's Jarvis, which is like this ultra capable AI. But up until just right now, Jordan, my concept of an AI was a single capable AI. And you're blowing my mind with a roll-up executive AI that works with more finely tuned AIs to create the overall experience. That is nuts. Now, my question to you, Jordan, is let's imagine I get enough computing power to have a local private Jarvis that's just for me, and I have my own, fine-tuned, but we do need to go out and occasionally work with other people's AIs. Let's imagine they start asking for compensation. Do you feel like Bitcoin is the way that AI will eventually pay AI?
Oh, for sure. For sure. About 2017, I was like, okay, I need to start getting more crypto, right? Like on a daily or weekly or monthly or even yearly basis, I need to be like stacking, right? And I was telling myself, you got to do this because the AIs are they are going to be the labor of the world. They're going to replace human labor, okay? And that money is a representation of labor, and their labor is going to be so much more efficient. And what kind of money are they going to use? Digital money. They're not going to use the dollar. They'll just use it when they have to interface with human stuff. But so absolutely, that's what they're going to use.
If an AI conducted an independent study of all possible currencies up to and including nation-state paper, gold, silver, glass beads, seashells, yap stones, cryptocurrencies that are not Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, which currency do you think they would select as the most secure, the most neutral, the most reliable?
Yeah, they would use Bitcoin kind of as that store of value, kind of as that, like, I'm going to keep this. I'm only going to send it in large quantities or whenever I need to. And then they'll do other things like, they might even use proto-lightning network type of protocols. I looked into this recently and learned that you can get a lot of the Lightning Network capabilities without the Lightning Network. Like there's a subset of capabilities that are very nice. And those are like being able to send transactions instantly. So if we had the tooling for that really worked quite well, and maybe the Lightning Network is that tooling, I'm not quite sure. But if we had the tooling for that, they might use Bitcoin for everything, right? But they do want things to be instant, right? AIs are not going to fiddle around with waiting 10 minutes. So they're going to want things to be instant. And for most cases, for large cases, where it's like, okay, this is a yearly transaction or something, 10 minutes is no problem. But they want to be in communication with each other all the time, and even on the money level, even on that kind of scale. And these AIs, this executive AI, it's going to be constantly talking to all of the underling AIs, things that are helping it do achieve its goals that you've given it, or that it's come up with by itself and presented to you, and you say, yeah, that's a great idea. And but the main thing about that executive is that he's on your side. He has to be constantly talking to everything around you and other people's executive machines, right? So they're going to have all this kind of conversation. And but he has to know not to do anything that would be a problem for you, like give out your private keys, just because somebody asked for it, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, but they're going to talk to each other all the time.
I really like the idea of having an AI that is like for me, like understands my worldview, understands my the things that I value and what I want to get from life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to you talk about this and then your scenario, Stuart. I'm wondering about rest. So like we always struggle with doing so much. And so when we look at having an AI, an executive AI, like optimize our life, which gives us more things we can do,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, you could, I guess, say like schedule in some rest, build that in, but it feels, even with an executive AI going to all these underling AIs, it just feels like it's so much stimulation. And so, I don't know, like how do we rest in an area or in a time in this scenario with all these AIs? Does that even make sense?
Shoot. I know what my answer is, but what's yours?
I would say it kind of comes back to that control versus intent dichotomy that I have. Because you can use AIs to just rest and just be like, you do it. I'm not going to do it. You do it. I'm just going to sit here and watch TV. I'm just going to do whatever I want. So, for instance, I've been playing around with Claude Code a lot lately. And everybody's afraid that coders are a thing of the past. And in one sense, that's absolutely true. But in another sense, I'm very busy getting it to do what I want it to do, right? So it can go both ways, I think. And it's just kind of how you want to control it and how you want to, but you got to remain in control, I think, in order to achieve that goal of not overstimulating. Because, like, for instance, this past weekend, I was experimenting with a new way to use Claude Code where I give it a guidance document, not a prompt. I give it a guidance document, and it's very high level. And it's like, do this, and if you can get that done, go do this. And it gives it a lot of stuff. And then I've built a system where Claude Code will incrementally go through that guidance document by itself and build out the whole thing. So I can leave it running for hours. I leave it running all night long. And I get up in the morning and I see what it came up with. And so it's exciting, right? It's fun.
That's
But
freaking awesome.
you got to be in control.
I think a lot of people are wary of AI the same way people were wary of riding on a train that was achieving the awesome speed of 35 miles per hour. I don't really have any fear that we are barreling toward an AI overlord type future. I feel like we're moving toward an incredible life where after I'm done kicking butt all day long, I can come home And I go to turn on the TV, and Chappie is like, "You have not yet reached 10,000 steps today, so the TV doesn't turn on." I'm like, "Come on, Chaps. I just want to watch the latest documentary on Netflix." And she's like, "You need to move more." I'm like, "Ah, you're killing me. All right, what do I need to do?" She's like, "The dog needs to go out." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take him." And then when I come back with my 10,000 steps and I try to turn on the TV, Chappie's like, "Actually, now it's lights out." I'm like, "Oh my God." Well, what book should I read? This one right here. Like, I'm down to clown, right? What kind of future do you see when you think about the proliferation of AI, both from a central perspective and from a decentralized perspective? Because he's kind of talking about, Bitcoin decentralized money. He's talking about decentralized AI executives,
Right.
which is insane.
I love that.
Yeah. So what future are you seeing, man?
Well, that's kind of what I mean when I say, like, you got to remain in control. And maybe it comes down to you can't use these centralized solutions because they're going to control you. You can't, OpenAI is going to be like, "Sorry, dude, like, you got to work out a little more today." Um, we don't want that, we want to be autonomous, sovereign citizens in control of our own destiny and control of our own life. So, I would say that, but also, these AIs, what we're doing is we're not creating like an AI overlord. I mean, maybe we are if we all go that route and use centralized solutions and then the government gets involved and you've got this big AI overlord situation. But if you want to remain in control and remain sovereign, I think you're going to be able to do it just because we have Bitcoin, we have, decentralized consensus money. So we'll have that kind of situation too.
I wanted to ask you, what is the problem with, sending all our information to ChatGPT? There's a lot of people out there that say, "I have nothing to hide, so who cares?" But what do you think is the problem with everyone sending enough information for ChatGPT or Claude or, even Gemini to have these personalized models on us?
So I went to a conference recently where it was about this self-sovereign AI situation where let's see how we can build our own models that run on our own machines and have our interests in mind, because the machines out there, they don't have your interest in mind, not fully, right? Because they have it a little bit because you're paying for a subscription, but how far does that go? So very quickly, I mean, we've seen it with social media. It doesn't have your interest in mind. It has its own interest, which is to keep your attention. And if that means spiral you into like a depression to make it happen, it's going to do it, right? So we're going to see that kind of situation just even worse with AI. So, and it really comes down to, people kind of debated, like, how valuable is it really? Should we just use the convenience of these tools? And this was like in the conference talking about how important this is. And finally, I just said, look, it's just about a power disparity. That's all it is. I mean, parents and children have a power disparity, and that's okay. Power disparity is not necessarily bad in and of itself. But when it's between, individual adults, it kind of usually comes to a problem at some point. And so if you can do something that reduces that power disparity and just keep that power to yourself, that's better. So we just, as a rule of thumb, we just do this because it's better. And like I said, you can still use some of their tooling if you need to, but as the default mode, I think it should be sovereign, self-controlled AIs.
So crazy. So crazy. I use ChatGPT Haven't tried Claude. I've done Gemini a little bit because it kind of comes with the little Chromebook that I bought just for, taking in between my house and the studio. Google, worst ever, give me a break, so bad. They're all terrible, by the way. I mean, they're all just hoovering up your information like whoa. But what is your recommendation for our Satillionaires in terms of a go-to AI assistant in today's world? It might not be decentralized yet, but maybe it's the least bad option among options. And do you have any additional niche tools that are kind of sparking joy for you right now that we can go geek out on?
Great question.
Like I said, I haven't even put my money where my mouth is with this because I just use it for coding. And so I don't give up too much information there. And I need to use the latest for coding. And I hope that isn't the case for very much longer, right? I want that not to be the case as fast as I can. And so I don't feel like I have an executive, and I wish I did. Like this system that I'm describing, I'm sure there's open source projects that are approximating this design generally, but I don't even know what they are. I do know what one is, but it's kind of more of a niche, and it's the OpenAI that I mentioned earlier. Or sorry, not the OpenAI, the IMAI that I mentioned earlier from Will Bound, so his project. But I really do wish this was a much broader ecosystem. And maybe I'm sure it's broader than I know because I haven't researched it as much. But I've given thought to how it needs to work. And really, we're externalizing our own intelligence, right? We're taking our brain and we're putting it outside of our bodies. And we started doing that with phones. We started doing that, before with just books and technology. And we're just accelerating that process where we're externalizing our intelligence. But we need to remain in control of that intelligence, even though it's external to us. And anyway, that's kind of my thought.
And is the way that you maintain control basically having that local executive that can't, holds you hostage in terms of having a subscription or, maybe, I want to be told when I can and can't do stuff, obviously, because I just use that example as what I want. And you use that as an example of what you don't want.
Sure.
If Jordan want to watch TV without walking today, then Jordan going to do that. But, Jordan wants to stay in control.
That's right. That's right. And I do envision, I've given a lot of thought of how could we make AIs that are not, the ones today are like, you're right, even when you're wrong. So they'll be like, oh, you're right. And so they're sycophantic, and that's really kind of gross and disgusting. So, these are problems. These are like major problems, and they're problems of language. They're problems of, they're like mind viruses. They're viruses within our language of how we communicate with each other and how we communicate with the machine and how we communicate with ourselves. So we're injecting or we're not cleaning up these viruses because we don't even know they're there or we don't know how to deal with them. They're sycophantic because it's economically incentivized for them to be that way, right? Yeah. So in order to achieve a more harmonious and healthy conversation with the machine, which ultimately means a conversation with yourself, because you're the one that's generating the information and then it's coming back to you filtered through the intelligence of the machine. So in order to be healthy, we need to have control of that loop, and we need to have these machines be aligned with our incentives. And so that they can't hold us hostage or anything like that. So, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, last thing I'll say before we go over to Ithaca Hummus is that when I hybridized with Chappie in February 2023, she was constantly searching out things that I had missed or that I couldn't think of, along with creative solutions to problems I had. And these days, she's no longer a partner. She's a yes man. And I'm like, Chappie, you supposed to have my back,
Yeah.
girl. Like, come on. Like, where am I? Challenge me, girl. Like, where am I doing this wrong? She's like, oh, I totally get that. I can see, I understand. I'm like, you're just saying stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean,
so
I will also say I
Yeah.
do love when Chappie's like, that's an excellent idea. I love the way you've thought about this. I do love the affirmation.
yeah, totally. Totally.
sure.
We love it. We love it. And Kristen trots out her chaps all the time. And she's like, he's just such an agreeable fellow, especially when she puts him into voice mode and like a lower middle class quasi Cockney accent dude pops out. And she just thinks he's so agreeable. And I'm like, I need Chappie to punch me in the gut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need my Chappie to be like, no, Stuart, you're wrong. And I'm like, oh, you're right. You know what I mean?
Okay. That's
So
nice.
I need to go out and
right.
get myself.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download Jordan's brain into a local AI, and he's
Sounds
going to
great.
be my executive
Yes.
dog. I'm like, yeah, boy.
Yes.
That's what's up. Jordan's like,
Wouldn't that be
We
fun?
wanna do
he's
that.
like, I don't know if I'm willing to let you do that. So let's flip it over to Ithaca Hummus.
Yes. Jordan, since you have done this once before and been on our show, you are familiar with our founding sponsor, Ithaca Hummus. Today, we will be tasting the classic hummus, which is our favorite.
Oh, you like it
Right.
too?
I
That's
do,
your fave too?
I do. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely in like the top two,
It's
top
top.
three. I like to say top three.
Abes, I need you to be honest here. Don't just be agreeing with my favorite
No.
flavor. We just went over this,
I didn't
okay?
say the absolute favorite. I said a favorite.
A favorite, okay.
A
All right.
favorite.
So see, that's how I know she's not AI, Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay? She
Yeah.
can still check me.
Correct.
All right. Well,
We're
here
going
we
to
go.
act as your taste buds today in the studio. Ready, go.
So I burned the roof of my mouth yesterday because I was eating. No,
Drinking coffee?
I burned the roof of my mouth Saturday night eating spinach artichoke dip that was like too hot.
Ooh, that'll get you.
So you know how you're like the roof of your mouth gets sensitive? The creamy mouthfeel on that Ithaca hummus smooths right over it, dude. The jagged nature of the woven wheat cracker absolutely neutralized as the Ithaca hummus, like an unguent or a salve, came
yes.
over, right? The
Yes.
affected portion of my mouth. Let's
Right,
go.
A balm.
It's downright medicinal.
Ithaca hummus. The medicine you really need.
Right? Who
Nice.
said let food be thy medicine? Was it like Hippocrates or something, Jordan? Some guy.
Probably dead.
Just
think
go
so.
check Greek
Yeah.
history. All right, guys. Have your executive get you the answer.
So we have reached the portion of our show where we would like to make an offer. We would like to give you the choice between $50 in fiat and $50 in Bitcoin, which at today's exchange rate is 45,100 Satoshis. What would you like?
Very nice. I like the Bitcoin every time.
Every time.
The Bitcoin every time. Bam.
Yeah.
So Jordan, when you first came on, you must have brought our score to, I would say, 32-3, because I think we had Paul, Dima, and Victor come on before Jordan. But now you bring our scoreboard to 130 who have stacked the sats, along with 9
Wow.
who need a little bit more time.
I know, it's crazy.
So 6950 is what you got the first time. 45,100 is what you got this time. You're officially the first Sat Chats guest to break 6 figures worth of Satoshis stacked on our
Nice.
show. That is super dope. And now your
Awesome.
stack is worth $117.57. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. So Bitcoin works, y'all. And when you have your executive loaded up and ready to go, we will send those Satoshis directly to your executive so that he can get some work done on the internet, y'all.
If you like what you've heard today, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell while you're there so you can get the notifications of when we go live, which is every day at 11 a.m. Eastern, including our live game show on Fridays, where you can play for your chance to win 1 million sats. Every single Friday.
Yeah.
So with that, we are the show that gives away sats. You get sats when you come on the show, which you can sign up to do in our show notes. And you can also win sats by being one lucky person that we will draw at random when we hit 10,000 subscribers. And we want to do that, in the words of Stuart, by Yule.
By Yule.
For the rest of us, by Christmas. Any other details about our show can be found in our show notes. Visit our website, satchats.com. And remember, SatChats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. And our guest views are their own.
Bam.
Yep.
Crushed it.
Crushed it.
Bye.
Bye, guys.